Hey guys, I'm back again and I'm here to do Vlogmas Day 18. So today I'm going to be doing a Q&A for you. So I haven't done a Q&A in quite some time. So I thought, why not get back into the groove and answer some of your questions? So I have a few questions here. Some of them are quite, extensive. So let's start with the first question. The first question is, how do you stay motivated to read so many books? What does reading do for you? Okay, so first of all, the first thing I try to do is to try to not be overrun by, number one, all of the great books that are coming out on a regular basis. And I try not to get overrun by what other people are reading. So all of us in this community are just passionate about reading, whether we read 200 books a year or 15 books a year or less. And I try to stay in my lane. Okay. So that's the main thing. And in order to do that, what I do is I try to focus on what I want to read or need to read at the moment. So it's true, I run 2 book clubs, one online and one here in person. And I have a podcast with Christy, Brown Girls Reading Podcast. So I have a lot of books that I'm having to read, I guess you could say, as obligatory reading, but not really, because I love these books and I want to read them. And so what I do is I just try to make sure that when I choose to read a book, it's because I truly want to read that book. And if I start to read a book and I feel like it's not jiving with me and it's not for a buddy read or for a read along or something, or the podcast, that I DNF. Okay. So I DNF, that's the next thing. I DNF when I'm not feeling that book. If I'm not doing it for a book club read, or I'm not doing it for the podcast, or I'm not doing it for a read along, and I start to read it and I'm not feeling it, and I don't feel like I want to finish reading that book, then it's gone. I mean, that's how I stay motivated. Now, another way is to choose the books that you know you truly love and want to read. I try not to get caught up in a lot of the regular things that you see happen here on BookTube or even on Instagram, which is, maybe obligatorily reading all of the long list of the Women's Prize, or all the long list of the, of the Booker Prize, or et cetera, et cetera. Or, only reading these types of books this month, or only reading women for 6 months of the year or for the whole year. I try to not do stuff like that, because that's exactly what can put me into a funk real quick. So that's how I stay motivated. Now, what does reading do for me? Reading does lots of things for me. It informs me. It entertains me. It teaches me about the English language. It, teaches me about other people's cultures. It also instructs me on how to write better, because I do want to write a book one day. So every time I read, I'm looking in depth at how things were described and how the author went about telling the story. So that's what reading does for me. So it's something for me that is a daily thing. I try to read every day. Now, this month of December hasn't been the case. So much stuff is going on. Vlogmas, work. There's a lot of other things going on in my house. So reading every day has not been the priority. But during the year, I pretty much read something every day. So that's what reading does for me. Thank you so much for this question. Okay, the next question is, what is your book selection process? What is your most unpopular book opinion? – Okay, now my book selection process The best way I can describe it is as research. So what I do is whenever I'm looking for a book and I find something, I always write it down. So I always have like a journal or a notebook that I keep where I write all of the books that could be interesting for me personally to read or could be interesting for my book club people to read. And another thing is I try to do my research everywhere. So sometimes Amazon will suggest me some possibilities. Sometimes I'll get possibilities on different websites that I am subscribed to. Sometimes I get ideas from other book bloggers that I'm subscribed to. And yes, I said book blog. Y'all probably out here thinking book blog. Ain't nobody reading no book blog. Yes, people are still out here reading book blogs. I have a book blog, which I'm going to get back into writing in January because I miss it so much. So I get book blog suggestions. I get suggestions from people on Instagram. I then also get suggestions from lists like New York Times list, sometimes from independent publisher list. So I would say I do research all year round. It can be in the middle of summer and I'll just be, looking. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know about this one. Maybe this one could work. So it is a long process of a lot of research. Okay, now, the second part of this question was, what is my most unpopular book opinion? Well, if you look at my past videos, you'll notice if you look in the videos that are the most watched on my channel, there's a book review for a book by Jodi Picoult, which is called Small Great Things. Yeah, that's the one right there. Small Great Things is a book that I had to read with my book club here in Normandy, and it was a failed attempt at writing about race. Sue me if you don't agree. Sue me. And so many people, because I think I did this review maybe 4 years ago or something like that. People still today leave a comment on there and tell me how wrong I am about my opinions on this book, that it's the best book that they've read, and how Jodi Picoult knocked it out of the park. And yeah, no, she did not knock it out of the park. Trust me. Okay, the next question. Your reading range is impressive. How do you select books for your podcast and YouTube live discussions? Okay, so for the live discussions, you already know I just answered that. How do we choose books for the podcast? Well, I'm not alone in the podcast. I have my reading buddy, Christy. She has an extensive reading background as well, and she did a MFA in creative writing. So what we do is, since we both really love literary fiction, we usually put our heads together and we either use like a theme, or because the first 3 years of this podcast are dedicated to following the decades. So we try to choose books in each decade that were either popular books that should be revisited by both of us, or books that neither one of us had read yet that we had heard were very good, or that we know are recognized as being great classics. So we usually get together and we kind of decide which ones we're going to do. Now, sometimes we get into a situation where one of us knows better than the other, so go with the other's suggestion. And so sometimes it's me and sometimes it's her. So that's pretty much how we're operating for these first 3 years of the podcast, going through the decades. So if you go over and look at the podcast, you'll see we started at the Harlem Renaissance and we just work our way up. Thank you for the compliment. My reading range, I feel like I'm lacking in the reading range because I'm still not gung-ho about reading fantasy nor sci-fi. I can't do it. I'm not good with reading horror, and I haven't been that good about reading romance. So I feel like I'm not really that overall person of reading that I would like to be. I don't think I'll ever love reading science fiction and fantasy because it's just really not my thing. I really prefer consuming fantasy and sci-fi. I prefer that in a movie form, in a movie format. So, but thanks for the compliment. The next question is, what is the first book you remember reading? Ultimate favorite author and book. Okay, the problem with these questions are that I have a hard time trying to pick out my ultimate favorite book because every book is so different. It's hard to say what is my ultimate favorite book. I don't think I have an ultimate favorite book. I'm going to be honest. Now, I have a lot of five-star books, books that I just love, love, love. You've seen some of them on here. If you got a chance to watch my five-star memoirs, nonfiction and fiction, you get a pretty good idea of some of the books that I absolutely love. So I feel like if I want to say ultimate favorite five-star nonfiction, it would have to be The Warmth of Other Suns, for sure, hands down. That book will always be a top favorite nonfiction for me. As for fiction, this is a little bit more difficult for me to choose. Particularly enjoy reading of Solomon, Tar Baby, Beloved, Bluest Eye. I quite love all of her old, books a lot. I also quite like the classics. For example, loved East of Eden, love There Is Confusion, Jesse Redmond Fawcett, love of Ellison, Simple Man, love Alice Walker, love The Color Purple, love her short story collection, very good. Love William Faulkner, specifically The Sound and the Fury, Light in August. Those are two of my favorites from Faulkner, but I still need to read a lot more Faulkner to be more familiar with him and to maybe pick out some other favorites from him. Yeah, so those are just some things that I like to read. I mean, favorites. There's tons of favorites. Now, the first book I remember reading, you know what? This is a tough one as well. I'm going to add in a little video after this part to talk about a book that I really, really enjoyed reading a lot when I was a child. And it is a book that is full of like nursery rhymes and kind of fairy tales. And this is the book that I remember the most about my childhood, because this is the book that when I was either bored or sad or whatever, and I was in my room and didn't have anything to do, this is the book that I would pick off the shelf and I would go to my room and I would read that book. So I'm going to insert some footage here where you can kind of see me leafing through that book. Okay, the next question is, how do you get publishing houses to send you books? Okay, so a lot of people always ask me this. And so this is how I respond. So I started blogging about books probably about 9 years ago, something like that. And I religiously reviewed a lot of books in the beginning of that blog. I mean, a lot. And I reviewed all kinds of books. I reviewed you know, new releases, old releases. I reviewed independent authors. I was in, those monthly reviewing companies that would, approach bloggers, and then we would pick a day, and it was that day that we had to post our blog post on our blog, and then it was subsequently put onto the website of the company that was doing the marketing for the author. So I started to review, and with every review, I started making contact with different publishers. Now, this is back in the day when there are a lot less people blogging about books. BookTube is just infant stages compared to the way it is now. And I kept doing that. And so eventually what wound up happening was I could write a message to a publishing company and say, hey, I'm really interested in reviewing this book. Do you think it would be possible to get a finished copy, or an ARC? And I prefer finished copies because ARCs, are nothing more than advanced reader's copies. So that means what you're reading is not the final copy. Things will be and can be changed before the final book comes out. So I will just write them. And then if they respond back, sometimes they respond back and say, sure, leave us your address and we'll get one out to you. And then sometimes they say they never respond. So in the beginning, I don't think I had any trouble whatsoever getting a book. I would write, leave them a message on Instagram, and they would get back to me. They were, they knew who I was because they knew my YouTube channel, or because they knew my Instagram, and they would oblige and send me a book. But in recent years, there has been a slight change in the sense that I live in Europe, in France. And so I don't even live in an Anglophone country. I live in a Francophone country. This has also been a big hindrance to me progressing as a booktuber or an Instagrammer, is a bookstagrammer. It's because I'm living in a Francophone country does not make me an attractive choice to post things to. So I would say recently, with the changes in the post, right now in Europe, and specifically in the European Union, there is a new law that says that receiving packages from outside of the EU, we will be taxed when we receive the package at our home. So that means if somebody sends me a couple of books or a book and it arrives in front of my door, the postman is going to ask me to pay a charge on that. And the charge is being decided by the customs officials at the airport. They decide how much tax I have to pay to receive my package. So because of that, a lot of, I think quite a few, I won't say all of them, but quite a few publishers have opted not to send books to me here in France, which I get it. Some of them have sent me books and I have not had to pay, which means they have somehow paid for the tax on their end so that when it goes through customs, it just goes right through to me and I don't have to pay. So it's like what and what to get a book directly from a publisher. Now, the best option is to join NetGalley. So NetGalley.com is a place where a lot of us bloggers, bookstagrammers, booktubers, you join NetGalley and you open an account. And what you have to do is you have to go on there and you can get an ARC of a book that you decide that you want to read before it comes out. The problem is that you can say, hey, I want to read X book. And you go on to NetGalley and you propose yourself to do a review. So what they do is they will give you a copy, but you must provide a review in exchange. So if you go on and you don't have a good rating of doing reviews for, for the books that you get, you will get, demoted, and people will probably not want to give you any arcs. And in some cases, it's not a problem. They'll say, sure, here's the arc, and you go through, and the arc either goes directly to your Kindle, and then you can read the book for free. So that's another way. That's probably a better way of getting books from the publishers, particularly if you don't want to have the physical copy at your house because you're not sure you're going to like it, or you don't have the capacity to receive a physical copy like me because you're in a country that they don't want to send books to for whatever reason. So that's how I get books from publishers. Just, the best way to do it is if you live in the States, get a relationship going with the publishers that you're the most interested in. Make yourself known. Get yourself a YouTube. But don't just get a YouTube just to get books, because that's whack. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't just get a Bookstagram so that you can just get free books. No, don't do that, because then you're messing it up for everybody who's actually on here that are actually reading the books and reviewing them and love reviewing books. So be very careful when you decide to ask for free books all the time. The next question: what made you decide to move to Europe? What is your occupation? So I decided to move to Europe because my husband today was my boyfriend back in the day. We met in college. He was from southern France, and we met like the last year. It was his last year and my last year when we actually met. And so I decided to come here because he tried to stay in the US and it wasn't working. He was having a lot of difficulty. So I said, no problem, I'll come here. And that's how I wound up in Normandy. And I've been here since 1990. All right. What is my occupation? So I am an English teacher. I am a EFL, English as a foreign language teacher. And I've been doing that for over 20 years. I'm burned out. I have to admit, I'm tired. Okay. So I might have to try to get another job doing something else because your girl is burned out with the teaching. But yeah, so that's it. I came over here, and so my husband's from southern France, but we live in Normandy right now. So what happened was when he started interviewing for jobs, and all of the jobs kept being in this area of Normandy. So in the end, he wound up getting a job here in Normandy. And so we wound up getting an apartment here in the town we live in. And then when I came, we were in a smaller apartment. Now we live in a house. And so I was going to Paris every day. I was studying French at the Sorbonne. Although I could speak some French, I couldn't really understand it as much. Needed a whole workover with my French. And so I was at the Sorbonne learning to perfect my French, to be understood and to understand people when they spoke to me. And so I did that for about a year, and then I went into studying again, and I studied because I have an English lit with a minor in French from the US. And then when I came over, like I said, studied a year at the Sorbonne. And then after that, I decided to do 1 year training to go to art school. So I went to a 1 year preparatory year where I learned the rudimentary stuff around painting, sketching, drawing nudes, drawing, technical drawing, all of that. And then I went to interior architecture school after for 3 years. And sadly, once I get out of there, we had to move. And in that case, so when we had to move to Egypt. So I was then thrown into a whole nother thing, living in a foreign country, another foreign country, and living life there for 3.5 years. So yeah, we've been through a lot, moving around and stuff. So I've never worked as an interior architect, and I probably will never work as an interior architect. But what it has given me is a love of art. And well, I had a love of art before that, but this brought it home for me. So now I try to do painting and creating on my free time, which I love just as much as reading. So that's that. That's all about me and how I got here. Okay, so my next question is, what inspired you to start the YouTube and Insta channels? Have you always been entrepreneurial and an innovator, or did this come somewhat later in your career? Okay, so, starting the YouTube channel, it got started on a whim. So I started back in 2012. I was watching a lot of natural hair videos, and I was always on YouTube watching natural hair videos. And one day in the sidebar, I saw somebody's video and it said something about BookTube. So I clicked on it. It's like, what is this BookTube thing? Then I clicked on it, and then I saw, oh my God, it's people reading books and talking about books on here. So all of a sudden, my YouTube watching expanded, because I was not only just watching the natural hair videos, I was also watching the BookTube videos. And so I would, watch the videos. I would comment on under some people's videos. And eventually I started thinking, well, maybe I could do this. Now, I've been a big reader for forever, so I'm like, maybe I could actually talk about some books on here. Like, could I really do this? So I thought about it and I thought about it. And then one day I just said, no, why are you thinking? Just do the damn thing, So it was, I want to say it was Christmas of the end of 2013 or something like that. I did my first YouTube partially in the dark with a Christmas tree in the back, doing a haul or something like that. And from there, it was YouTube all the way. I started, doing videos, and then learning how to edit, and then perfecting the way I was doing my videos. But I use iMovie. I don't use Final Cut. I don't have that. I use iMovie, and it just works just as well for me, iMovie. And then it just started growing like that. And Instagram, it was kind of newish. And so I just said, oh, let me try this. It's taking pictures, and, talking about books in a different format. So I started doing Brown Girl Reading over on Instagram, and I really liked the old format of Instagram so much better. But anyway, there's nothing we can do about it. Video is here to stay. So that one, it just kind of came like naturally. And I started to do Instagram more seriously after a couple of years. I think I started getting a little burned out on BookTube because I just felt like I was spinning my wheels. I was doing these videos, and, people, weren't really watching that much. And, and it's like this every year. Every year you get a plethora of new booktubers that come, and everybody runs over and, watches their videos, and, in masses. And then all the people that were there before are still doing their videos, but they're spinning their wheels and nobody's really watching. There might be a small community of people watching them. And I feel like if you have a small community, you have the best kind of audience in the end, because you know that those people really want to watch you, and they will watch you. So that's pretty much how that started. So this was not anything planned. I don't think I had ever thought I would do anything connected with videoing and editing. I mean, all this stuff I didn't know anything about before, but I do feel like it's a plus for me that I, attempted to do something different than I had been doing before. And it just added to my work life because, like I said, I was getting really bored with teaching. And so I was looking forward to talking about books that I had just read, recently. So that's how that went down. Okay, the next question this is a long question. Your book reviewer perspective is just the right amount of analytical. How did you learn to do these? I think I'm observing that you've chosen to keep your IG and YouTube channels fairly small and intimate. A few years ago, this might have seemed like a missed opportunity, but now given all the crap that we know about algorithms and the potentially harmful impact on viewers, you seem prescient. Would you be willing to share your thought process about the choices you've made in running your channels? So I must admit that, you could probably say maybe I missed my opportunity to grow bigger than I am. But I feel like if I'm meant to grow, I'm going to grow. And if I'm not, I'm not. That's just where I am with that. It's true that the algorithms have severely affected the way people can find you on different platforms. But like I remember back in the day, there were not very many black booktubers. And then all of a sudden there were a lot of us, except the algorithm wasn't picking up any of us. So that was what I found was staggering. Or people would type in Black Bookstagrammer and they would get white bookstagrammers would show up on the screen. Or they would get Indian origin bookstagrammers or something like that. So I feel like today it's different. YouTube is different. Now, if you type in, newbie booktuber, you're going to find a plethora of new booktubers, Black, white, Asian, all different, colors of the rainbow. And so now I feel like the Black bookstagrammers that are coming on to YouTube now are more popular quicker than we were back in the day in between 2013 and 15. People that should have grown enormously back in the day gave up and either left a booktube because of its stringent algorithm. And now something has loosened up for minorities in booktube, because there are more young Black booktubers now than there were back in 2013, 14 when I started this channel. And they come on and already they are at 5K viewers on their videos. So I say yay for them. It's working. The algorithm is being a little nicer to people of color in the Bookstagram community. So that's that. Now, as far as I'm concerned with my community, probably where I was not a very good booktuber was when I started to do more Instagram. I flunked out on booktube and I didn't do as many videos on here. I was like missing for months at a time. And I'm sure people that were watching my videos aren't watching them anymore or won't watch them anymore. You can have as many thousands of people following as you want, but if you don't have thousands that the viewers don't match your followers, then you've got followers for nothing. So for me, that's always been my case. And it's been my case for the past, I don't know, since the year before the pandemic, 2019, it's been like that. I had 13,500 followers. Now I'm having less and less every month. I would say, I'm down to 12,900 and something, so people are not enjoying some of the content that I put out. Now, it's true, people don't seem to like the art content that I provide, but I'm only providing that art content during Vlogmas. Because for me, Vlogmas is supposed to be about the person, what they want to show, what they're doing. Do a lot of book videos and stuff. But I did do collage, and I am going to do a junk journal, me making a junk journal, but because that's me. Now, some people can just skip out on those videos if they don't want to watch them. I'll just tell you right now, a junk journal video is coming. But that being said, I'm not mad at myself or disappointed at myself for losing followers, because I feel like there's a time for everything, and I've been doing this for a very long time, and I'm still here. Will some of these other people that are just showed up in the past 5 years, will they still be here in 9 years? I don't know. We will see. But, you don't do it because you're going to get a lot of money. You don't do it because you're going to get a lot of followers. You do it because you enjoy talking about books and discussing books and things with people. And that's why I do it. Now, I have gotten the great, chance to have an online book club over on Patreon, which allows my patrons to pay me a little money to help, facilitate a book club, facilitate a discussion, and get people together talking about books. And I do appreciate all of my patrons for, giving me the time and the money, and are members of my Patreon book club. I really do appreciate you, and thank you for that. As for worrying about algorithms, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go down that road, because then I'll be running around trying to figure out, oh, did I put the right tag? Did I put the right lighting? Did I do this? Did I do that? And I'm like, I'm not here for all of that. And, and it's like, I'm also too old for all of that. So I've decided, I am going to continue to do what I do on here, which is review books, because that's what I wanted to do, was review, not book haul every week, and not just do tags every week, and not just, film myself in bookstores every week. I wanted to do full-blown a book review, and that's what I'm going to stick to. That formula is the formula that got this channel going, and that's what's going to keep it going. So in 2024, expect to have a lot more book reviews on here, which I hope people will watch. People say they want to watch them, but then they don't watch them. So I don't know. But that's what's going to be up for 2024, is consistent book reviewing here on BookTube, but also over on my blog, browngirlreading.com. And so another change is going to be, I've opened up a second channel, and it's called Ah Da. And this is a channel that I'm opening specifically to do art. So all of my art endeavors are going to be over on Ah Da. So if you're still interested in watching my art, you know where to go. You know where to go. You can follow me over there for my art escapades. So what I'm hoping to do is a video a week on each channel. And if I can do more, if I can do a second video a week, because I have something like a second book review or something bookish, I will do a second one. But the standard is going to be one a week on my BookTube channel, and one post a week over on my blog. So that's that. And there will also be one post a week on Arda. So that's all I have to say about Yeah, the channel, the algorithm, and all the rest of it. So I just wanted to thank all of you who asked me questions for this Q&A. I appreciate you. These people are people that have been watching, for a little while. So I know who they are, and I appreciate them asking questions. And I appreciate them following my content, because I do try to do my best to propose books for Read So Lit, for the read along, so that we can all join in together and discuss something. In honor of Black History Month in the US, as well as in the UK in October. And I will continue to do that. I get joy out of talking about books with you guys, and that's not going to stop. So that's all I have for you today for my Q&A. I hope you enjoyed this. And yeah, let me know what you think about what I've been saying. And let's have a discussion below. Yeah, okay. Bye. I'll see you tomorrow with another video.